Ancient Egypt, a civilization renowned for its grandeur, flourished on the banks of the Nile River for over 3 millennia. The Egyptians were deeply connected to the natural world, their lives entwined with the rhythms of the sun, moon, and stars. This profound relationship is evident in their religious beliefs, social structures, and daily activities. The Egyptians observed the celestial dance of the sun and stars, recognizing their cyclical nature and the life-giving properties of the sun. They developed a complex understanding of astronomy, using it to track time, predict the Nile's floods, and align their monumental structures with celestial events. The celestial bodies, with their predictable movements, were personified as gods and goddesses. The sun, the most prominent celestial body, was revered as Ra, the creator god, who sailed across the sky each day in his solar bark. Let us journey back in time and delve into the Egyptian experience of day and night, uncovering the secrets of their celestial beliefs. As the sun began its descent in the west, a sense of tranquility descended upon ancient Egypt. The fiery orb dipped below the horizon, marking the end of the workday and ushering in the night. Unlike the bustling activity of the day, the night held a different significance for the Egyptians, a time for rest and reflection. The Egyptians believed that the night was a time when malevolent spirits roamed freely. To ward off these unseen forces, they performed protective rituals, seeking the guidance and protection of their gods. The night sky, a breathtaking tapestry of twinkling stars, held a particular fascination for the Egyptians. Astronomers, priests with specialized knowledge of the heavens, played a crucial role in Egyptian society. The night was not just a time for rest, but also a time for connecting with the divine. The Nile, the lifeblood of ancient Egypt, played a pivotal role in shaping the Egyptian perception of time and the cosmos. Its annual floods, predictable yet awe-inspiring, were the heartbeat of Egyptian civilization. The Egyptians observed that the Nile's inundation coincided with the rising of Sirius, the dog star, in the eastern sky just before dawn. The Egyptians developed a sophisticated calendar based on the solar year, dividing it into 3 seasons: Akhet, inundation; Peret, growing; and Shemu, harvest. The Nile's rhythmic cycle of flood and recession mirrored the cyclical nature of day and night. The Nile, in essence, embodied the cyclical nature of time and the Egyptian belief in the enduring power of the cosmos. The Egyptians were meticulous timekeepers, their lives governed by the celestial rhythms of the sun, moon, and stars. They developed sophisticated methods for measuring time, dividing the day and night into equal segments and creating calendars that aligned with the solar year and the Nile's floods. To measure time during the day, the Egyptians used sundials, simple yet effective devices that tracked the sun's movement across the sky. At night, they relied on water clocks, ingenious devices that measured time based on the steady flow of water from a vessel with a small hole. The Egyptians developed 2 main calendars: a lunar calendar based on the cycles of the moon, and a solar calendar based on the sun's journey around the earth. Accurate timekeeping was essential for religious practices, as temples throughout Egypt adhered to strict schedules for daily rituals and offerings. Time for the Egyptians was not linear but cyclical, intricately linked to the movements of celestial bodies. Death, for the ancient Egyptians, was not an end, but a transition to another realm, the afterlife. Just as the sun journeyed through the underworld each night, so too did the deceased embark on a perilous journey through the underworld. The Egyptians envisioned the underworld as a subterranean world, shrouded in darkness and ruled by Osiris, the god of the dead. The deceased's journey through this shadowy realm was fraught with danger, requiring them to navigate treacherous paths and prove their worthiness to Osiris. Tombs were elaborately furnished with food, clothing, tools, and weapons to accompany the deceased on their journey. The afterlife, therefore, was not a perpetual night, but a realm of both darkness and light, where the deceased faced challenges and rewards. The Egyptian pantheon was populated with a myriad of gods and goddesses, each embodying forces of nature or aspects of human experience. Among these deities, Ra, the sun god, and Nut, the sky goddess, played pivotal roles in the Egyptian perception of day and night. Ra, often depicted as a man with a falcon's head crowned with a solar disk, was the supreme deity in the Egyptian pantheon. Each day, Ra sailed across the sky in his solar bark, bringing light and order to the land. At sunset, he journeyed through the underworld, battling chaotic forces before emerging triumphant each morning in the east. Nut, the sky goddess, was often depicted as a woman arched over the earth, her body adorned with stars. She was the mother of Ra, swallowing him each evening as he descended in the west, and giving birth to him anew each morning in the east. The eternal dance of Ra and Nut symbolized the enduring power of creation and the cyclical nature of existence. Temples, grand and awe-inspiring structures dedicated to the Egyptian gods and goddesses, were not merely places of worship, they were microcosms of the universe. These sacred spaces were intricately aligned with celestial events, their architecture and decoration echoing the celestial realm above. The entrance pylon, flanked by towering obelisks, symbolized the gateway to the celestial realm. The hypostyle hall, with its forest of columns, represented the primeval waters of Nun, from which creation emerged. The sanctuary, the most sacred part of the temple, housed the cult statue of the temple's deity. Temples were also aligned with significant astronomical events, such as solstices and equinoxes. The decoration of temples further emphasized their celestial connections. The ancient Egyptians possessed a profound understanding of astronomy, using their knowledge to align their monumental structures with celestial events. Pyramids, the most iconic of all Egyptian monuments, were not randomly placed, but carefully oriented to the cardinal directions. The four sides of the Great Pyramid of Giza, for instance, are aligned almost perfectly with north, south, east, and west. Temples were also aligned with significant astronomical events, such as solstices and equinoxes. The Egyptians believed that aligning their structures with celestial events imbued them with cosmic power and ensured their stability and longevity. These alignments were powerful expressions of the Egyptian worldview, reflecting their deep reverence for the cosmos. The ancient Egyptians lived in a world deeply intertwined with the rhythms of nature, their lives governed by the cyclical dance of day and night. Their perception of these cycles was not merely functional, but deeply spiritual. Their meticulous timekeeping practices, their alignment of monuments with celestial events, and their elaborate funerary rituals all point to a civilization deeply aware of its place in the grand scheme of the cosmos. The Egyptian fascination with day and night, with the cyclical nature of time and the eternal dance of celestial bodies, continues to captivate us today. The Egyptians, in essence, left behind an enduring legacy, reminding us of the power of observation and the timeless allure of the cosmos.
Have you ever wondered how the sands of time have shifted under the influence of different civilizations? Such is the curious case of the Romans and their impact on ancient Egypt. Egypt, the cradle of civilization, with its pyramids and pharaohs, has always held an allure for history enthusiasts. But like a prism refracting light, Egypt's history is multifaceted, with one of its most intriguing aspects being the influence of the Roman civilization. The Romans, renowned for their mastery in governance and engineering, set foot in Egypt around the 1st century BC. A land already steeped in rich history, Egypt was a jewel that many sought but few could claim. For the Romans, it was an opportunity to expand their empire, and for Egypt, it was the dawn of a new era. Over the course of our exploration, we will navigate through the corridors of time to shed light on the Roman conquest, the blending of cultures under Roman rule, the marvels of Roman engineering, and their enduring legacy in Egypt. Imagine, if you will, the bustling city of Cyrene, a vibrant testament to Roman architectural prowess, thriving under the desert sun. Picture the grandeur of Roman forts, their imposing structures a beacon of Roman might amidst Egypt's ancient landscape. But this influence was not confined to bricks and mortar. The Romans, with their nuanced governance, were architects of society too. They built bridges, not just of stone, but of culture, intertwining their own with that of the Egyptians, creating a rich tapestry woven with threads of both Roman and Egyptian heritage. And let's not forget the marvels of Roman engineering. Aqueducts snaking through the landscape, an ingenious solution to the desert's harsh climate. Their testament to the Romans' ingenuity still stands today, echoing tales of a civilization far advanced for its time. As we delve deeper into this intriguing history, we will uncover the profound impact of the Roman civilization on ancient Egypt, a tale of conquest, cultural fusion, architectural genius, and an enduring legacy that has stood the test of time. This is the unseen influence of the Romans on ancient Egypt. The Romans, a civilization known for its military prowess and strategic acumen, set their sights on Egypt around 30 BC. The allure of Egypt's vast resources and strategic location was too enticing to ignore. After all, Egypt was a jewel in the crown of the Mediterranean with its fertile river valleys, abundant grain, and access to the Red Sea trade routes. The conquest of Egypt was not just about territorial expansion for the Romans, it was a strategic move, a testament to their foresight. Egypt was not just another province, it was the breadbasket of the Roman Empire. The fertile lands along the Nile River provided a steady supply of grain, ensuring that Rome never went hungry. Furthermore, the wealth of Egypt, particularly its gold, added significantly to the coffers of the Roman Empire, fueling its economic prosperity. But the Romans weren't merely conquerors, they were also assimilators. They recognized the importance of Egypt's rich culture and history. Instead of imposing their culture wholesale on the Egyptians, they chose to integrate, absorbing elements of Egyptian culture into their own. This approach allowed them to win over the hearts and minds of the Egyptian people, making their rule more palatable. The conquest of Egypt marked the beginning of Roman influence in the region. The Romans established their presence with the construction of forts and cities, including the city of Cyrene, which became a hub of Roman culture and commerce in North Africa. These settlements served not only as military outposts, but also as symbols of Roman power and civilization. The Roman conquest also marked a significant shift in Egypt's history. The Pharaonic era had ended, and the Roman era had begun. It was a period of change and adaptation, as two of the ancient world's most renowned civilizations became inexorably intertwined. With the conquest complete, the stage was set for a Roman era in Egypt's history. The Romans had arrived, and they were here to stay. Their influence would permeate every aspect of Egyptian life, from its culture to its architecture, leaving an indelible mark on the land of the pharaohs. Under Roman rule, Egypt experienced a fusion of cultures that shaped its future. The Roman conquest of Egypt in 30 BC was not just a political takeover, but a significant cultural merger that forever altered the course of Egyptian history. This period was marked by a fascinating blend of Roman and Egyptian cultures, creating a unique societal tapestry that still resonates today. The Romans, renowned for their administrative efficiency, brought about significant societal changes. They introduced their language Latin, but also allowed the use of Greek and Egyptian, acknowledging the importance of cultural diversity. This linguistic coexistence is a testament to the Romans' pragmatic approach, allowing for smoother administration and better communication with the locals. In the realm of religion, the Romans displayed remarkable adaptability. They embraced Egyptian gods, incorporating them into their pantheon, thus creating a hybrid religious system. The Roman emperor, seen as a divine entity in Rome, was also portrayed as a pharaoh in Egyptian contexts, further exemplifying this cultural synthesis. The Romans also respected and adopted the Egyptian tradition of mummification, a practice associated with the journey to the afterlife. This adoption illustrates the Romans' willingness to integrate local customs into their own, a strategy that undoubtedly helped in maintaining peace and stability. Politically, the Romans recognized the value of the existing Egyptian administrative structures and, rather than dismantling them, chose to adapt and build upon them. While the Romans brought their own laws and governance style, they also incorporated Egyptian legal traditions, creating a blended system that was both effective and accepted by the locals. Under Roman rule, Egypt became a melting pot of cultures, a place where Roman and Egyptian traditions coexisted and even merged. The Romans' pragmatic approach to ruling, their willingness to adapt, and their respect for the existing culture resulted in a unique societal blend, a fusion that enriched both societies. The Roman rule had firmly woven itself into the fabric of Egyptian society, leaving an indelible mark. The Romans were renowned for their engineering prowess, and Egypt was no exception to their architectural marvels. When we delve into the annals of history, we find that Roman engineering left an indelible mark on the landscape of Egypt. This influence is evident in the remarkable structures that withstood the test of time, echoing the grandeur of Rome even in the heart of the desert. One of the most fascinating examples of Roman engineering in Egypt is the aqueducts. These ingenious structures were designed to transport water from the Nile to the arid regions of the country. The Romans applied their knowledge of hydraulics to master the art of moving water across great distances, using gravity as their ally. They built aqueducts with such precision that even after 2,000 years, some of these structures remain functional. Just as impressive are the Roman bridges scattered across Egypt. These bridges were not just feats of engineering, they were strategically placed to facilitate trade and communication. The Romans harnessed the power of arches, a design still used in modern bridges, to create sturdy, reliable structures that could bear the weight of heavy traffic. But the epitome of Roman influence in Egypt can be seen in the city of Cyrene. Nestled in the Libyan desert, Cyrene was once a vibrant Roman city, brimming with grand architecture. The city was a fusion of Egyptian and Roman cultures, reflected in its many monuments. The Romans adorned Cyrene with a grand amphitheatre, a testament to their love for the arts, and bathhouses that showcased their innovative heating systems. The city was also home to the Temple of Zeus, a colossal structure that rivaled the Parthenon in Athens. This temple, built in the Corinthian style, with its fluted columns and ornate friezes, is a testament to the architectural prowess of the Romans. The Roman engineering marvels in Egypt were not just structures of stone and mortar. They were symbols of the empire's might, the physical embodiment of their knowledge and creativity. Even today, these structures inspire awe and admiration, reminding us of a time when Rome's influence stretched across the known world. These architectural wonders stand as a testament to the Roman influence that pervaded Egypt. Even as empires rise and fall, their legacies continue to echo through the ages. The Roman Empire was no exception. Its influence on ancient Egypt was profound, and its imprint can still be seen today. The Romans, with their superior military tactics and engineering prowess, built numerous forts across Egypt. These forts served not just as defensive structures, but also as important trade and administrative centers. One could say that these forts were the backbone of Roman rule in Egypt, facilitating control over the vast desert landscapes and the bustling Nile River. But the Romans didn't just bring their military might to Egypt, they brought their culture too. The Romans, being pragmatic as they were, did not seek to erase the existing Egyptian culture, but rather chose to integrate it with their own. This integration led to a fascinating blend of Roman and Egyptian cultural elements, visible in the architecture, art, and even religious practices of the time. The city of Cyrene stands as a testament to this blend of cultures, with its Roman-styled buildings adorned with Egyptian symbols and motifs. The Roman influence also extended to the governance of Egypt. The Romans introduced a more centralized administrative system which proved to be more efficient than the previous structures. This system not only helped the Romans maintain control over Egypt, but also paved the way for future administrative practices. Finally, the Romans introduced new agricultural techniques and crops that boosted Egypt's economy. They also improved the existing irrigation systems, ensuring a more reliable water supply for the agricultural lands. These advancements in agriculture had a lasting impact, securing Egypt's position as a breadbasket of the Mediterranean even after the fall of the Roman Empire. The Roman influence in Egypt was not just a chapter in history, but a saga that continues to resonate. The Roman legacy in Egypt is a story of cultural integration, administrative efficiency, and agricultural advancement. It's a story that serves as a reminder of how empires, even in their fall, continue to shape the world in unexpected ways. The sands of the Egyptian desert hold stories of times when the might of Rome shaped its destiny. We've journeyed through epochs, traversed the timeline of the Roman conquest and rule, and marveled at the engineering feats that stood as testaments to Roman ingenuity. We've explored the harmonious blend of cultures that resulted from the Roman reign in Egypt, and how their legacy still lingers in the windswept landscapes of this ancient land. As we traced the footsteps of Roman soldiers along the Nile, we discovered the profound effects of Roman architecture and engineering. The aqueducts, the bridges, the forts, all silent witnesses to a time when Rome's influence was stamped onto Egyptian soil. They echo the genius of a civilization that was far ahead of its time, a civilization that left an indelible mark on the world. We ventured into the city of Cyrene, a page from history that encapsulates the Roman-Egyptian cultural fusion. A city that bears witness to the Roman administrative acumen and a testament to the peaceful coexistence of two great civilizations under the Roman rule. The Roman era was not merely a period of conquest and rule, it was an era of influence that sowed the seeds of progress and cultural evolution. The Roman legacy in Egypt is not confined to the remnants of their architectural marvels. It is imbued in the ethos of the land, subtly influencing its course of development. Understanding this Roman influence is akin to piecing together a grand puzzle, a puzzle that reveals the vibrant tapestry of Egyptian history. It helps us comprehend how the past has shaped the present and how it will continue to shape the future. In conclusion, the Roman era was a pivotal chapter in the history of ancient Egypt. It was a time of change, of growth, and of cultural amalgamation. It was an era that left an enduring imprint on the sands of time. As we walk on the sands of Egypt, we tread on layers of history, each telling a tale of civilizations, their rise, their fall, and their enduring influence. Have you ever wondered how a day in the life of an ancient Egyptian unfolded? As dawn's first light brushed across the horizon, ancient Egyptian households stirred into activity. The day started early, long before the punishing heat of the desert sun could make work unbearable. Family members roused themselves from their simple beds, often nothing more than a mat on the floor, and began their day with the rising sun, a testament to their resilience and tenacity. The morning air would fill with the scent of baking bread, a staple in the Egyptian diet, made from emmer wheat or barley. This humble loaf, often accompanied by a jug of beer, formed the backbone of their breakfast. The beer, contrary to modern perceptions, was a nutritious brew, low in alcohol and high in vital nutrients. Bread and beer, in their simplicity, provided sustenance and energy for the day's activities. Meanwhile, the household chores were set in motion. Floors were swept, homes tidied, and animals attended to. These tasks were shared among the family members, each contributing to the smooth running of the household. Despite the simplicity of their dwellings, cleanliness was of utmost importance, a reflection of their spiritual beliefs and their reverence for Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian concept of truth, balance, order, harmony, law, morality, and justice. As the morning chores were completed, the children, seen as blessings from the gods, were prepared for their day. Many would accompany their parents to learn the family trade, while others, particularly those from wealthier families, would receive education, a privilege that was not universally accessible. The morning bustle, a symphony of activity, was a testament to the industriousness of the ancient Egyptians. Their day-to-day life was a delicate balance of work and family, a dance choreographed to the rhythm of the rising and setting sun. Their homes, whether grand mansions of the wealthy or humble mud-brick dwellings of the commoners, were centers of love, life, and productivity. As the morning chores were done, ancient Egyptians prepared for the day ahead. As the sun rose higher, the day's work began in earnest. The ancient Egyptians embarked on a myriad of activities that formed the backbone of their society. From weaving and professional mourning to serving in the households of the affluent, the Egyptians were a diligent people. Intriguingly, both men and women partook in these activities, a testament to the equality that was a cornerstone of their society. In the pre-Greco-Roman culture, Egyptian women were not mere bystanders. They owned property, testified in court, and could even inherit. A woman could step into her deceased husband's trade, an opportunity that was restricted when the Greeks and Romans arrived. The marriage contracts of the time also bore witness to this equality, often including mentions of allowances and items of value brought into the marriage by the woman, which forever remained hers. The social structure, however, did play a role in determining the opportunities available to an individual. The higher their status, the easier it was to obtain education and access different professions. But regardless of their social standing, every Egyptian had a role to play, a task to execute. This society was not just about work, there was also time for leisure. When the tasks of the day were done, Egyptians would engage in games and music, a welcome respite from the rigors of their daily chores. Children were considered a blessing from the gods, and their laughter and playfulness added a sense of liveliness to the otherwise industrious Egyptian lifestyle. The ancient Egyptians were a people of balance. They understood the importance of work, but also the value of relaxation and family. They built their homes with care, whether it was a commoner's house made from sun-baked mud bricks or a wealthy mansion decorated luxuriously. They believed in equality, and this belief was reflected in their society. As the sun began to set, the ancient Egyptians wrapped up their day's work and returned home. They had fulfilled their roles, carried out their tasks, and now it was time to retreat to the comfort of their homes, to their families, and to rest, ready to repeat the cycle the next day. With the setting sun, the ancient Egyptians retreated to the comfort of their homes. The hustle and bustle of the day's activities subsided, ushering in a time of quiet contemplation and familial bonding. You see, evenings in an ancient Egyptian household were not just about rest, but about strengthening the ties that bound them together. As dusk fell, the families would gather for dinner. But unlike our modern-day practice of congregating around one large table, each individual had a small table of their own. Meals were simple, yet nourishing, often consisting of bread, vegetables, and sometimes fish or meat. This practice of individual tables wasn't a sign of disconnectedness, but rather a custom unique to their culture. The importance of family in their society cannot be overemphasized. The father, mother, and children were the nucleus of the family, but their household often extended to include mothers-in-law, sisters, aunts, and sisters-in-law. The evening meal was a time for them to come together, share the day's experiences, and perhaps indulge in light-hearted banter. It was a time of unity and connection, a time to reinforce the bonds of love and respect that held them together. Children, considered a blessing from the gods, filled these homes with laughter and joy. They were doted upon, their every need attended to with love and care. And as the evening wore on, stories would be shared, tales of valor, of gods and goddesses, of the mighty Nile, instilling in the young ones a sense of pride and belonging to this ancient civilization. The evening was also a time for personal grooming and hygiene. They would clean themselves with natron, a type of salt, and oil their bodies. Hair was combed, clothes were changed, and the day's dust was washed away, preparing them for the tranquility of the night. As night fell, the ancient Egyptians retreated to their bedrooms, preparing to start the cycle all over again the next day. They would sleep on beds raised from the ground, their dreams filled with the promise of another day in the life of an ancient Egyptian. So, how was a day in the life of an ancient Egyptian? Well, it started at dawn with the daily routines in the household, each member contributing to the smooth running of the family unit. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the day was filled with various activities. Some engaged in the family trade, while others served in the houses of the rich or pursued professions unique to their gender. In the evening, the home transformed into a hub of social interactions. The ceremonial room buzzed with guests while the family members gathered around their individual tables for dinner. Despite the absence of surnames, the family tree was etched in stone, quite literally on funeral stones, to ensure the deceased were remembered. The day ended in the intimate confines of the bedroom or kitchen, the heart of the home. It's fascinating to think about how much we share with the ancient Egyptians, despite the thousands of years that separate us. Their day-to-day life was filled with activities not too dissimilar from ours, making them not so distant after all. Did you know that beer and bread were not just food items, but also a form of currency in ancient Egypt? While it was the Mesopotamians who first invented beer, even developing the ingenious use of a straw to sidestep the pesky sediments and herbs, it was the ancient Egyptians who truly mastered the art of brewing. The quality of Egyptian beer was judged by its color, its flavor, and of course, its alcohol strength. Beer was more than just a beverage to the ancient Egyptians. During the Pharaonic era, it became the most commonly used alcoholic drink, and its importance was unparalleled. It was consumed daily by both adults and children, and it was even included in medical texts as a key ingredient in hundreds of remedies. The state and temples used beer as a form of payment to their workers. It was also offered up as food to the gods and the deceased. This humble brew was the drink of choice at ceremonies and festivals, and there was even a particular festival aptly named the Festival of Drunkenness, devoted entirely to it. Beer was not the only product the Egyptians were skilled at creating. Bakers and brewers often worked side by side in the same workshop or house, with bread being another staple in the Egyptian diet. The most basic recipe involved using malted cereal as the primary ingredient, with fruits such as dates, honey and spices added for flavor. Once baked, the bread would be crumbled into the brew to kickstart the fermentation process, creating a thick, mash-like substance. The process was a testament to the Egyptians' resourcefulness. Very little was wasted. Leftover grains were put to good use, either being reused to make sourdough bread or incorporated into the next batch in the Pharaonic era. Beer and bread evolved from mere sustenance to become the most commonly used and significant commodity. Imagine receiving your salary in the form of beer and bread. Sounds unusual, right? But that was the reality during the Pharaonic era in ancient Egypt. Beer and bread, more than just staples of the Egyptian diet, were the currency of the land. The state and temples used these commodities as payment to workers, from the builders of the Great Pyramids to the farmers tilling the fertile Nile riverbanks. But it didn't stop at wages. Beer and bread also held a sacred place in Egyptian society. They were routinely included in offerings to the gods and the deceased. It was believed that these offerings would provide for the needs of the departed in the afterlife. In fact, the hieroglyphic symbol for meal was a loaf of bread and a jar of beer. Festivals and ceremonies too were incomplete without these two essentials. One such occasion was the Festival of Drunkenness, a unique celebration dedicated entirely to beer. This festival commemorated the myth of Sekhmet, the lioness-headed goddess, who almost wiped out humanity but was pacified by beer. Egyptians would drink to the point of oblivion, believing that in their intoxicated state they could connect with the divine. Beer was not just a recreational drink. It was considered to be quite nutritious and was a significant part of the everyday lives of ancient Egyptians. It was consumed with all meals by adults and children alike. Its importance is further underscored by its prominence in medical texts, where hundreds of remedies contained beer as a key ingredient. As for bread, it was more than a side dish. It was a symbol of life and fertility, and its production was associated with the god Osiris, who was believed to have taught Egyptians the art of agriculture. So, while we might not find the idea of being paid in beer and bread appealing today, for the ancient Egyptians, these were not just food items. They were an integral part of their life, culture, and economy. Indeed, beer and bread were not just food items, they were the lifeblood of ancient Egypt's economy and culture. Beer for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that was a typical day for an ancient Egyptian. Beer wasn't just an indulgence for them, it was a dietary staple consumed by adults and children alike. It was as common as water, and arguably safer to drink considering the purification process involved in brewing. Now, it might sound strange to us, but the beer of ancient Egypt was very different from what we're used to today. It was a nutritious, hearty brew that was more like a liquid bread. It was thick, often consumed with a straw to bypass the chunky sediments, and contained proteins, vitamins, and even antibiotic properties. Yes, you heard that right. This beer could help fight off diseases, an added bonus in a time before modern medicine. In fact, beer was so significant in the day-to-day lives of ancient Egyptians that it even found its way into their medical practices. Hundreds of remedies from that era include beer as a key ingredient. It was used to treat everything from digestive issues to wounds, making it an essential part of their health regimen. And it wasn't just beer that held a crucial place in their diet. Bread, too, was a staple food made from barley or emmer wheat. It was often enriched with additional ingredients like fruits, nuts, honey, and spices, providing a wide range of nutrients. The process of baking bread and brewing beer were closely linked, often happening in the same workshop or household. The leftover grains from brewing were reused to make sourdough bread, ensuring that nothing went to waste. This circular process not only maximized resources, but also created a symbiotic relationship between the two essential food items. Now, keep in mind, this was not a diet born out of indulgence, but out of necessity. In a harsh desert environment where fresh produce was limited, beer and bread provided the necessary calories and nutrients to sustain life. So, for ancient Egyptians, beer was not just a drink, it was a vital part of their diet and health regimen. And bread wasn't just a side dish, but a life-sustaining necessity. Their importance in the daily life of ancient Egyptians was paramount, a testament to human ingenuity in turning simple grains into nourishing sustenance. The ancient Egyptians were not just pyramid builders, they were master brewers and bakers too. Their craft was a delicate dance of ingredients and steps, an art form that took skill and care to perfect. The most basic recipe for their beer began with malted cereal. This humble grain was the starting point, the canvas upon which the Egyptians would create their masterpiece. To this they added dates, a sweet, sticky fruit that lent flavor and body to the brew. Honey was another addition, bringing its own unique sweetness and depth. Spices too were included, their aromatic notes dancing amidst the other flavors, adding complexity and intrigue. And then there was bread. Not just any bread, but bread that was freshly baked and crumbled into the brew, a catalyst to start the all-important fermentation process. Adding grain enzymes to the mix, the Egyptians were able to break down the starches in the bread and malt, turning them into sugars. This created a thick mash, a soupy mixture that was the precursor to the final beer. Once ready, this bread and grain mixture was compressed, strained through a sieve with water, and added to the mix of malt beer. This beer mash was then transferred to large containers and compressed again, either by foot or with pestles. This process smoothed out the mixture, readying it for the final steps. Once smooth, the beer was stored in pottery jars, sealed with a clay stopper to keep it fresh. Its shelf life was limited, and it likely had a thick, pasty appearance and texture. But in ancient Egypt, nothing was wasted. The leftover grains from the brewing process were reused either to make sourdough bread or to be combined with the next batch of beer. This cycle of brewing and baking, of creation and reuse, was a testament to the Egyptians' resourcefulness and ingenuity. Despite the passage of time, the brewing and baking techniques of the ancient Egyptians remain an awe-inspiring testament to their ingenuity. As the sands of time shifted, so did the quality and significance of beer and bread in ancient Egypt. Take a moment to consider the humble grain of wheat. In its raw form, it may not seem like much, but when transformed by the hands of skilled bakers and brewers, it became the lifeblood of a civilization. The introduction of durum wheat, a hard variety of wheat with a high protein content, brought about a significant improvement in the quality of bread. This allowed the upper and middle classes to enjoy a more refined taste. However, the story was different for the poor. Their diet was often a simple gruel made of vegetables, softened bread or barley. Despite the advances in bread making, the disparity between the classes was evident even in their meals. Interestingly, the way food was prepared also evolved. Until the Middle Kingdom, food was prepared on the floor. Can you imagine kneading dough or brewing beer in the dust? But innovation came in the form of cooking benches. These raised platforms provided a cleaner, more efficient space for preparing meals and must have been a welcome change for the bakers and brewers of the time. In the world of brewing, the techniques remained largely the same, but the recipes evolved. Brewers began experimenting with different ingredients, adding fruits, nuts and spices to their brews. This not only enhanced the flavor of the beer, but also provided additional nutrients, further cementing beer's place as a vital part of the Egyptian diet. Just as the pyramids stand as a testament to the architectural prowess of the ancient Egyptians, the evolution of beer and bread serves as a testament to their culinary innovation. This is a story of a society that valued both necessity and pleasure, creating a balance that was reflected in their food and drink. From humble beginnings to significant commodities, the journey of beer and bread in ancient Egypt is a fascinating tale of evolution and adaptation.